welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrology this week. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of June 30th through July the 7th. We're going to add a little bit into that as well. We're going to do some extra. And I just want to do a quick overview for you guys for the month of July 2024. If you guys like this content and you want to see more of it, click the bell button below, subscribe to the channel. That way you're alerted as to when we have new content. I am here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday making sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Leave me a comment below and let me know how you're feeling with the astrology this week. Just a quick kind of heads up for you guys, something I've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and I just completed it actually a couple days ago. I have a presentation that I have on my website for the 2024 presidential election for the US election. Went full bore on this one. So just so you guys know, I was going back and forth with whether or not I was going to do it, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone, do the research. So I have a video that's out for you guys. It is on sale for $17.76 in honor of the United States. It is over about 4 hours worth of content. It is very thorough. I do a really deep dive into talking about the astrology for America. We look at the solar returns, the progressions of America, some of the transits going on during election day. I do a full profile on Biden as well as Trump and alongside RFK Jr. We then talk about the transits of election day. We also look at the inauguration chart as well as other potential contenders. And best believe I brought all the drama because we are also going to be answering questions like, will Trump be going to jail? What does his sentencing date look like? And when is it looking like potentially Biden will be stepping down? Now, this is all my astrological kind of speculation. I actually recorded it. I was like, I made myself do it. I was like, I need to do this before the debate. And so like literally leading up to 30 minutes before the debate, I was still filming this. And obviously sat there and watched the debate and was like shooketh. So if you guys are an astrology enthusiast, if you are curious what I see is coming for later in 2024 and into 2025, or maybe you're just like curious and you're like, let's see what this is about, check it out. Click the link in my bio. Like I said, it's on sale and you guys can pick that up this entire week in honor of the 4th of July. All right, and much, much more. Check out beyondtheveiltarot.com. I got courses, I have calendars, and you can book a personal one-on-one session with me. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this one plays out. So let me know what you think. So let's go ahead and get right into it. You know, we're going to talk a lot about what's happening throughout the month. Just as a reminder for you guys, we also have the 12 rising signs horoscopes that are out. So you guys can find that on my website. On my playlist. You guys can find it on my playlist. I have that out to give a more kind of specific rising or sun or moon sign perspective for what's happening to you. This is going to be a little bit more of an expanded list, but I'm definitely going to give you guys my hot takes for where I think things are going to get most active. But if you guys are watching today, June 30th, Sunday, you're probably a part of my Sunday crew. So happy Sunday to you guys. I hope you're doing well. You guys probably remember that last week I kind of left you at, hey, you're going to get to Sunday, and if you're an early bird, there is like a sense of there being a little bit of pressure because early this morning, the moon is in its exaltation in Taurus, where it likes to be. It's focused on security and resources and comfort and beauty, but it's facing a square to Pluto. So like I said, if you're up early, if you're an early bird, you may not get the worm. You might kind of get a bit of a interaction with somebody who's like grouchy, or it might be you. It's a quick moving transit. Once we come out of that square, as we kind of get later into the morning, things kind of cool off a little bit. And we're going to see this, this moon continue to keep sextiling placements in the sign of Cancer. Something else that you're going to want to pay attention to also is that when we have the moon going through Taurus, at least in this particular cycle, it's going to be coming up on Mars and Uranus. And so you'll see that over the next couple of days. We can feel a little rushed. We can feel a little impatient with the conjunction to Mars, but also it can be very much about passion. It can be about pleasure, getting what we want, going after what we want. We might feel a little spend happy with some of these aspects as well. Obviously, stellium with placements in Taurus is focusing on our values, stability, resources, and all this Cancer is about safety, emotion, security, reflection, protection. So this is like a really great day to indulge, but be mindful that we don't want to like overdo it. We can become too heavily fixated on material things, and that square to Pluto can kind of get us into some trouble. So that's my hot take on what you guys are going to be experiencing most of today. As the day goes on, the moon's going to move out of the square from Pluto and not do too much else. It looks like it's going to pick up a sextile to the sun later in the evening from Cancer to Taurus, and then it just keeps on keeping on. It's Monday morning that you want to be watching for on July 1st. Because when we wake up in the morning, the moon is coming into conjunction with Mars and Uranus. So we are definitely feeling rushed. We can be feeling like there is really kind of heated interactions and things that are kind of coming up for us. Thankfully, when the moon is in Taurus, we're looking at what's happening with Venus. You know, Venus has been following in a very kind of close combustion with the sun in recent weeks. It's starting to separate, but still it's close to the sun, so we can be feeling very heavy emotions, and we can be responding to emotions and finding that we're a lot more sensitive than usual, especially when we're dealing with home, family matters, the past. You know, anything connected to Cancer is about basically getting to the root of a situation and really kind of asking ourselves, how does this make us feel? Anyway. Thankfully, you know, Venus is in a sextile to the moon, so it's got an outlet. Maybe we are more passionate about getting work done or being productive if it's something that we love, or if it's something that's going to produce something that's going to bring us some kind of safety or security, or maybe we're feeling incentivized to want to do more for other people with that sextile to Venus. So we might feel like there's a little bit of like a muse vibe that's going on that's really kind of helping us get the day in order. On the other hand, you know, Venus is also coming into a trine with Saturn. So you're going to see this as an opportunity to be able to solidify relationships, be able to make decisions about long-term financial plans and goals. That moon conjunct Mars and Uranus maybe just means that we're listening to our impulses and we're thinking on our feet, and there is some sense of feeling like, okay, I have to go after this, or I have to take a chance. I have to be kind of bold and daring. This is what my emotions are telling me. So there is some stuff to balance it out, but usually when the moon's conjunct Mars, people can get kind of pushy. We can be in a rush. We're more likely to kind of get flustered or kind of get agitated. But this isn't your stereotypical, like, you know, throw them up type of energy. I think with Moon, Mars, you know, feeding off of this like Sun and Venus in Cancer, it's about people getting protective about the things that they love, that they're standing up for the things that they want to protect, that they want to nurture, that they may feel like is defenseless, right? So there's a bit of a method to the madness. I don't think it's going to be too hairy. Until the moon is actually between Mars and Uranus, which is going to happen later in the day. So it looks to me like the moon is going to slide between Mars and Uranus right around midday. So I'm Central Time. It might be a little bit earlier for you if you're on the Pacific Coast, might be a little bit later for you if you're on the East Coast, or it can be much later for you if you're in other parts of the world. I know we got people from all over. But this is a little tricky here because Mars applies the conflict, the agitation, the pressure, the you know, the reaction even. It can be wielding also like a weapon, and then Uranus is like, you don't know what's going to happen. So midday is where things kind of go a little bit haywire, and you might feel that all the way until the PM hours when the moon comes into conjunction with Uranus. But once again, thankfully, Venus is in a trine to Saturn. So that makes me feel like this is about being like, okay, I'm going to pivot. Like something's changing in a relationship. We're not going to break. We're going to pivot. Okay. How can we kind of figure out how to support one another, right? Saturn's about support. It can also be about, you know, having options and choices and like learning to, you know, kind of lean into some of those choices and options and do what's best for long-term financial or relationship, you know, or partnership kind of stability. So in the PM hours, the moon's going to kind of catch Uranus, and this can be adjusting to some of the changes that we've made. That's kind of the feeling that I get. Thankfully, you know, it's also sextiling Saturn. Okay, and yeah, I think that some of the Saturn sextiles, some of the Venus, you know, trines may actually help us smooth some of this stuff over. You guys are gonna have to let me know what happens on like Monday evening, because I feel like it's a little bit more so kind of cushioned than what we would typically see with like that Moon Mars transit. All right, so this is now going to take us into what is going to be Tuesday the 2nd. So in the PM hours, really early in the morning on Tuesday, the Moon and Uranus meet. So there can be some shocking, surprising things happening overnight leading into Tuesday morning. We see that Moon ingress into Gemini, and that looks like that's going to be happening kind of in the late morning, kind of midday. And when the Moon moves into Gemini, it's breaking free, right? It's no longer in a fixed earth sign. It's not so fixed on, you know, kind of that putting one foot in front of the other and, you know, navigating what can be some complex financial or physical situations. It moves into Gemini and it's like, okay, I can spread my wings. I have more ability to, you know, kind of go out and mix and mingle, to communicate, to talk. And it's reverberating off of Mercury now, because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So off the bat, when the Moon's in Gemini, we're busy, we're sending emails, we're chit-chatting, we're initiating communication. I really like the Moon conjunct Jupiter because I feel like this is about positive talk. It can be really great for like team meetings or sending an email or getting a lot more traction if you're trying to like impress a client. Maybe you're trying to launch something on a YouTube channel. Maybe you're trying to put something out and get some kind of recognition for something, right? All of this, scheduling, you know, even I would say like travel and stuff could be good for this. The one catch is that although this is extremely powerful and positive in terms of communication and ideas and socializing, it's feeding off of Mercury, which is coming into an opposition with Pluto. And I am already feeling this energy, okay? So when you guys leave comments and you're like, I'm feeling this a couple days early, I literally had to go back to my own horoscope this month and go, why are these things already happening for me? So the astrology even gets me. Mercury, the messenger. So this is things like gadgets, cars, travel, communication, emails, text messages, phones. Mercury moves into Leo, so it's loud, it's bold, it's proud, it's about creativity, it's about drama, it's about romance, and it's about expressing that. So nice aspect, right? The Moon and Jupiter are sextiling this. We're feeling very dramatic and we want to share with other people. But Mercury is coming into an opposition with Pluto, and Pluto represents the outside threat. Pluto represents some kind of control situation, some kind of verbiage that, you know, is going to be kind of limited. Difficulty posting on a social media platform, somebody saying, no, I refuse to talk to you, or this is the way that it's going to go. Conversations about exposure, document dumps, secret meetings, you know, people getting kind of crazy and possessive or feeling as if they have a kind of a hunch about something and talking about going through other people's like, you know, like phones and stuff. I hear a lot about that stuff when Mercury and Pluto opposes. Oppositions are relational. So when we see this, there's going to be fighting words that are going to come up, right? And so the sun rules Mercury, the sun's conjunct Venus, and it's trine Saturn. So it's like if anything comes up, it's because somebody's feelings got hurt or somebody was trying to do something secretive and then it kind of gets put on blast. Be very mindful of the communication. Some people might be incredibly, I think, optimistic or a little bit too, I think, confident with that Moon, Jupiter, sextile Mercury, that they're like, this is gonna go great. And then it's like a conversation could go a completely different way than you think it's gonna go. So I'm anticipating building up to this transit. Maybe you're feeling it this weekend. There can be some intense communication things back and forth with other people. And definitely is a little contradictory to that Moon and Jupiter. So the other thing is just shining, and it's so, once again, went back to my own horoscopes and was like, okay, what did I say? Just shining Leo and putting something out there and being yourself and being authentic and being creative or being in love or being happy or sharing things in regards to your children. There's going to be some haters, right? I'm sending so much love to all my Leos and Leo risings right now. Can you guys feel it? Give me a thumbs up if you feel it. Because it's like, it's agitating when you want to celebrate something, or you want to be really proud of something or share something, and then you've got that interference from Pluto opposing. So you can feel like there can be a lot of critics that are kind of, you know, challenging you, I guess I would say, with this particular transit. I should note that Mercury is the first planet to make that opposition. We have yet to see Venus make that opposition, the Sun make that opposition, and when you guys are ready for it, Mars is going to start making that opposition actually later this year, and that'll be a part of the Mars retrograde. So yeah, it's gonna be colorful, because I feel like this is when we really start to see, we're halfway through the Mars-Pluto cycle. We're starting to see where certain energies and forces outside of us want us to put our light out, right? So you just got to kind of crank that light up a little bit more so people can see it. Anyway, watch for that. You will also find that, you know, we are going to have, right before the ingress, actually on the 2nd, you're going to see Mercury trine Neptune. So right before, it's kind of like, oh, this thing's got to kind of have to like dissolve. It's got to fall away. And I think I talk about that in my horoscopes. And then simultaneously, then Venus starts coming into a trine with Saturn. And so it can mean that on one hand, we're intuitively tapping into the right words and figuring out what needs to be said, even though it's scary. And then on the other hand, the Venus trine Saturn is like, this is valuable, or this is so beautiful, or this is so sacred that, you know, I need to protect it in some capacity. And like, there needs to be some kind of boundary or limit, or, you know, feeling that you need to kind of put something in like a cocoon to protect it. Because this is a water trine. So lean into more the Venus trine Saturn, lean more into the sextiles to Taurus, where your emotions are kind of telling you something. And we don't want to let emotions run the show, but when there's some emotions coming up, we're like, hey, that means that maybe I need to be doing more. You know, I need to be kind of acting on that. So that's going to be Tuesday the 2nd. So some nice transits right before Mercury ingresses, and then it looks like it's going to hit that opposition, which is going to be later in the evening. So really things don't get a little tense until later evening on Tuesday. This is going to lead us into Wednesday, which is July the 3rd, and we wake up in the morning. We have got that moon that is still hanging out in Gemini. It's now leaving the conjunction to Jupiter, trining the south node. Nice. So we are able to kind of consciously clear relationship patterns. We're able to kind of move out of the past of Libra, you know, maybe being fickle or indecisive, maybe being superficial, maybe relying too much on what other people think or caring what other people think. And we are also leaning into the sextile with the North Node. So we are feeling driven, bold, optimistic, and we're finally starting to kind of come out of that opposition with Pluto. So this is still a decent day. I will tell you guys that there's kind of like a sweet spot in the morning before the moon starts coming into a square with Saturn, where things really aren't half bad. But as soon as that moon starts to leave Jupiter and it's picking up a square to Saturn, which is going to be right around the PM hours, looks like it's going to be closer to around like 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. Moon square Saturn at a 19 is going to make it more difficult to communicate, emotionally relate to people. We're going to feel like people are kind of blocking us, so they're not responding, or it's hard to kind of get, you know, kind of a vibe from other people in terms of like how they're feeling. And we may feel like it's really impacting our ability to kind of communicate and express ourselves. So earlier in the day, great, a little bit more challenging when that moon hits a snag to Saturn, because if you guys watch, now we're coming into the dark moon phase right before what is going to be the new moon that we're going to be having on the 5th. So the moon essentially now is waning, and we're starting to see things kind of get flushed out as we're preparing for the new moon. So we get kind of crabby, right? Pun intended, Cancer moon. We kind of feel like, ooh, things are kind of like dismantling or kind of like breaking apart. You know, we might kind of feel like, I just don't want to talk about it, or I'm not interested in sharing. We might get a little bit more sensitive with this transit on Wednesday night. Still feeling the Mercury-Pluto opposition. I think that's part of it. And maybe we can feel like it's just not the right time to talk about or discuss something, or we're feeling kind of threatened to bring something up with someone. Now, this is going to take us into Thursday the 4th. Obviously, happy 4th of July if you guys are here in the States. Hope it's a good one for you guys. Have a happy, safe holiday. Enjoy yourselves. We wake up in the morning with that moon, and it's in Gemini, and it is going to come into a square with Neptune. So this is kind of like, man, be mindful on the roads out there. Okay, Gemini is about driving. It's about also communication and connection and mobility. And when we see moon in the late degrees square Neptune, I feel like we're going to see some extreme weather. We're probably going to see some delays coming and going from some places, some issues with roadways. We may also see issues with drunk drivers. Quite literally, the next 2 weeks is a time to just slow down, guys. Okay, you're going to see when I get into some of the Mars aspects that's going to happen. But I would be very mindful of road conditions, and don't be texting and driving. Be mindful if it looks like there's other drivers that are impaired. Not something you want to mess around with as that moon hits the late degrees. There can also be some communications issues with that as well. But we're still watching Mercury. So Mercury's not really doing anything. It's kind of just hanging out until it starts to pick up a sextile to Jupiter. And as we continue to go throughout this day on the 4th, the moon is going to make an ingress into Cancer. That's going to happen in the late afternoon. So we're now kind of coming more into this homey energy. You may feel like your schedule is kind of topsy-turvy, or it's hard to get a hold of people or make plans, or maybe plans are changing until you get kind of later into the afternoon. I love the 4th of July with like a new moon and like the moon in Cancer. I feel like that's like so appropriate for the holiday. I love Venus being there. I think that to me, this looks quite lovely, to be honest with you, and very comfortable and like great for like home and family and familiarity, or going back and visiting family, or going back to childhood homes, or having, you know, kids come and visit. So it's a really nice energy, especially like since we see this Venus sextile Mars that's still kind of happening. So we're feeling like we can kind of socialize, and we're incentivized to get active and busy with other people. That moon is going to be there all through the evening, so enjoy your guys' fireworks. I will tell you that Mars and Uranus are very close. So this goes for really any firework display that's going to be happening in this next month. If you're somebody who's like, we light fireworks, just be more careful than usual. Mars-Uranus can be brush fires. This can also be issues pertaining to house fires, because, well, this is where the moon's exalted. Uranus is sudden, it's electrical, it's sparks, it's things that blow up, and Mars can be heat. So even if nothing happens over the holiday, let's say you have, or your kids or your family has a bunch of extra stuff, be very mindful as we get into mid-May with anything that can kind of pop, because it can definitely be a real disaster if you're not being safe. But I don't think you need astrology to hear that. So, all right, we're gonna go into the 5th. And we wake up in the morning and that moon is still in Cancer. We're now coming into what is going to be the new moon. If you guys did not check out my new moon video, definitely check it out. One of the better new moons this year. You guys know I'm usually pretty direct and sometimes kind of like hypercritical of the aspects. But I really love this new moon. I love that it's conjunct Venus. Venus is finally, starting to kind of separate and get a little bit more comfortable away from the sun. This isn't a trine to Saturn, so it stabilizes, and it's really helping us build on our dreams. It is also simultaneously sextiling Mars and Uranus, so we're able to kind of quickly make things happen and make changes. There's just so many great aspects to this particular lunation that I feel like it's very magical, and it's especially good if you're hoping to kind of connect with your lineage, your heritage, your ancestors, if you're looking for a new home, if you want to redecorate your home, if you are hoping to reconnect to family members. Obviously, you're going to have this new moon in a different part of your chart depending on what your rising sign is, but I really recommend checking that out because I think it's really wonderful. And in that particular video, I talk a lot about the squares to the north and the south node that will be happening leading up to this particular lunation, and that those squares tell a story about really what we are really focusing on in the Cancer area of our life. That house is really playing a role in giving us, I think, more conscious choice. I think we have more free will. The universe kind of says, okay, we're going to take a step back. We're not going to intervene. We're going to let you make the choice. Because squares to the north and south node are kind of like, do you want to go into the future and make a change, or do you want to stay in the past? And so that square represents us needing to make a conscious decision to pull ourselves out of those situations and kind of launch ourselves into the future. So definitely catch that because it's very important, and this full moon is going to be a big one when it becomes a full moon 6 months from now, as it will be conjunct Mars, which will be retrograde. So yeah, you guys you'll see what's going to happen then. All right, what else is happening on the 5th? Looks like we are also going to have Mars is going to come into a sextile with Saturn in Pisces, which is wonderful. That's a wonderful energy. If you guys remember the videos that I was kind of like, I think making at the end of last year, I made like a flow chart where I was like, here is, you know, the plant and the seeds in the garden, and you water it, and then it ends up becoming like, you know, like this thing that's like beautiful and growing. It was my way of teaching you guys about how Saturn in Pisces, or even when we had Jupiter in Pisces, was really watering and nurturing Uranus and Taurus, that it was going to represent some really significant change. Similar vibes, right? Saturn in Pisces is now retrograde. How are you guys doing with Saturn retrograde? Is it already starting to reveal all kinds of like cracks and things? Definitely had my Saturn retrograde moment today, man. It happened and I was like, oh, I should have known, you know, but it's okay. But basically this is saying the more that we are reevaluating and rethinking when it comes to the structures in our lives, when it comes to our goals, when it comes to our careers, what we are building, only then we can have a better idea of, okay, where do I need to take action? So if Saturn is the teacher and it creates the form and the structure, Mars is saying, okay, I'm going to kind of get to work. And I think that's really important because Mars is getting close to Uranus and it's going to feel very staticky, and it can get kind of riled up if it's not, if it doesn't have form, or if it's not kind of taking orders from Saturn. So just, yeah, focus on that. Focus on how you can be reflective and meditative on your vision, so that way you know the path forward and you're not getting shaken up or distracted, because that can happen very much as the week kind of goes on. And then secondly, we are also going to see Venus she's kind of starting to come into a square with Chiron. You're going to probably feel that as a part of the new moon. Obviously, new moons are about setting intentions. It's very fertile energy for brand new beginnings. While all of the aspects are pretty wonderful, that Venus square Chiron does kind of make me feel like that there can be some hurt feelings. We can be feeling the pain, because Chiron can be about pain, of rejection, isolation, kind of feeling like the odd man out, anything like that when it comes to home and family dynamics. So can be a very sensitive topic for some people, right? Cancer is the mother, so it can be feeling sensitive about relationships with the mother figures in our lives, or the pain that we have in regards to sacrifices and things that we're making on a personal level for our children or our relationships or our family. And that can be somehow kind of factored into this as well. So just be mindful that there can be some like relationship hangups or hiccups that can happen kind of the 5th going into the 6th as this Venus square is starting to perfect. But it actually looks like it's going to be more so exact very early in the morning on Saturday the 6th. So as we get into the 6th, which is going to be Saturday, that moon is still in Cancer. I want you guys to have plans for Saturday morning, okay? You have a whole week in advance, so you're prepared before these transits hit. Oh my gosh, look at this. Right after the new moon, we have a Moon-Venus conjunction in Cancer. This is sextiling Mars and Uranus, so it's passionate, it's kind of spicy, it's kind of waking things up, it's stimulating the senses, and it's also starting to come into a trine with Neptune. Wow, I love like Sunday breakfast or brunch with friends. I love, you know, doing some gardening, doing some decorating, having family over, like something that's going to be very kind of domestic and also incorporating women or beauty, indulgence, sweetness. Like get up and like have like breakfast with your family, you know? Really, really great transits with that Moon Venus. A lot of us are going to wake up craving cuddles, craving sweets, craving some affection and some quality time with those that we love. So take a little extra time to kind of slow down on Saturday. Don't spend your early morning, you know, kind of in a rush to get things done. Stop and smell the roses. I think that's really the key. We're also going to see that moon, you know, make like I said, a trine to Saturn and then kind of into Neptune. And we're working with the sweetness really all morning, from the time that most of you guys are going to be waking up on Saturday the 6th until the moon starts leaving. And the last aspect it's going to make is in the PM hours. It will make a trine to Neptune. So I kind of feel like Saturday is home, family, by the water, having food, going swimming, spending time with you know, mothers and sisters and relatives, and doing things where we're creating this really beautiful, safe, secure kind of like little nest, little den. Trust me, Saturday is going to be a really beautiful day. All right, probably the best day all week, in my opinion. All right, and then we're going to get into Sunday. This is going to be Sunday the 7th. And when we wake up on Sunday the 7th, obviously we are experiencing just kind of coming out of a Moon-Pluto opposition. So versus like last Sunday, when you're watching, Moon's been squaring Pluto, so we're feeling a little moody. We're going to see the Moon and Mercury meet, and they're in opposition to Pluto. Now, the Moon's going to make an opposition to Pluto very early, so I don't really feel like that's going to be something that's going to hit you as soon as you wake up. But oh my goodness, you guys, Sunday morning on the 7th, where you've got that Moon conjunct Mercury in Leo, I'm going to tell you, if you have kids, if you have younger kids, this is going to be the morning, that's going to be the Sunday that's like, kids are up eating cereal, making a mess, like watching cartoons and like, you know, just kind of all over the place, or playing dress up and like they've got all the toys out, you know. Mercury is about organizing and communicating and taking things apart. And then the Moon is playing off of the Sun, which is in Cancer with Venus. So maybe there's a little bit of like hangover from all like too much family stuff, you know, the day before. This is also a morning that's great for getting up and being creative, right? The Moon kind of indicates where we are going emotionally, what we are experiencing. And Moon Mercury is like, you know, you're sitting down and talking to your kids about their imaginary friend in Leo. You're talking to your nieces or your nephews about, you know, like something they're planning, or maybe, you know, like the kids are like, okay, watch us, we're doing this kind of like play. You're going to just notice there's going to be a very playful, communicative energy on Sunday morning. If you don't do those things, hobbies, painting, dancing, creating, creative writing, feeling inspired to write something would be a wonderful use of this energy, especially because kind of Sunday going into Monday, we're starting to see Mercury come into a trine with the North Node. And that's going to be about expressing things from the heart space, your heart's desire, and really, yeah, feeling very kind of like you're tuning into those creative impulses. So that's in the sky all day, right? Like all day. And the Sun is still in some really nice aspects, still kind of sextiling Mars, trining Saturn pretty soon. So I'm not too worried about the transits until like Monday, Tuesday, when, you know, that Moon inevitably is going to come into a square with Mars and Uranus. Now the Mercury Moon conjunction looks like it's going to be kind of in the afternoon. So you may feel inspired to write or create, or, you know, maybe you're feeling a little bit more flirty. You're going to send like that risky text message and be, you know, a little bit of a flirt maybe with Mercury and the Moon in Leo. That's definitely a very flirty, romantic, kind of creative style. And it's also sextiling Jupiter. So I definitely feel like this is really great for communications and planning. And then we're going to start to see that Moon with Mercury come into a trine, kind of still with the North Node. So some fateful things happening, feels good on Sunday evening. This can be a time where maybe it's more about setting aside time to practice a hobby, to be working on something. And it can be fitness related with the trine to the North Node. This can also be about initiating new things. This can also be just about feeling like you have an outlet to just kind of create. And I think maybe that's also the Sun that's coming into a trine with Saturn. Some people intuitively this weekend are going to be like, I feel like I just need to do something different. So if you're feeling that, definitely kind of get into it. For the most part, for me, I think really the only real challenging thing that I'm seeing this week is kind of the Mercury-Pluto opposition. You know, really make the most of great communication on Sunday. Have, you know, at it and really create a comfortable space on Saturday. For the most part, we're not really seeing too many challenging aspects. And then we've got a beautiful new moon. So outside of that, just to kind of encapsulate the month of July. So obviously, we're going to start this month with planets in Cancer. Okay, so we've got Mercury's gone into Leo, or will just be going into Leo, but we're going to see Venus in Cancer, great for domestic home and kind of family stuff. The sun's going to be moving through Cancer, where we're reflecting on emotions and where we're taking action. We've talked about the sextiles between Taurus, and that's kind of helping us stabilize and kind of feel like we have some incentive. And there's some really beautiful trines to Saturn, which is helping us stabilize, really tap into our intuition. And the same thing when we see trines to Neptune, where we can be feeling like we're kind of divinely tapped into something. The things that kind of pique my attention the most for July of 2024 is definitely going to be July 3rd, when we have that Mercury-Pluto opposition. Okay, so if you're somebody who's like, you keep a calendar, you can write this down, pull out your red marker. July 3rd, watch my mouth, you know, be mindful of like communication and back and forth with people, because it's gonna be in the skies. You're definitely gonna see that. Let's see. So it looks like that's gonna happen around 1 degree. And you might feel this the day before, it might be the day after, but I'm looking at that opposition right there. Probably the most intense also for you know, Scorpios, Aquariuses, because you're ruled by Pluto. I would say Leos also. Any of the fixed signs in the early degrees, you're going to feel like that kind of critical communication pressure. Don't let other people threaten you. Don't let other people bully you is the one thing that I would say. Don't be afraid to have conversations. That Moon Jupiter is still saying we have to speak up. The other thing that I think about also is going to be on the 15th of July, when we have the obviously the Mars-Uranus conjunction. Now, this has been on my list. Like when I sat down and did the astrology for 2024, and I was like, the North Node's in Aries, we need to know what Mars is doing all year. So when Mars was conjunct Pluto this February, I think it was, when Mars just recently squared Pluto, when Mars conjuncts Uranus, like, you know, the Mars retrograde, for me, these are really peak periods, all right? And so to put it very simply, when we break this down, it is a conjunction. So it means that this is the most, I think, potent astrological combination you can have. Unlike a square or an opposition where you're trying to kind of, you know, deal with pressure and make changes and evolve, or bring two opposing forces together and get them to compromise. The conjunction says, no, you will become one. Right? Here, kiss. Here, kiss each other. And Mars wants to fight, right? And Mars is passionate, and it's combative, and it's daring, and it's linear, and it's very, very masculine, and it is in the sign of Taurus. So it's passionate about the things that it loves. It's combative about the things that it owns. It is willing to wage war over something that is not settled, not comfortable, not consistent, not taken care of, that doesn't smell good or feel good or taste good. It will kind of set Mars off, right? So then you got Uranus, which is certainly not happy in the sign of Taurus. This is one of the more difficult places to have Uranus, because when we think of Taurus, it's the bull. It wants to have peace and pleasure and be in the field, right? It doesn't want to be disrupted. And then we have Uranus, which is all about disruption. We see kind of the highs and the lows and the zigs and the zags. And when you bring combative Mars into conjunction with unpredictable Uranus and you put it through the lens of Taurus, you get a pissed off bull. That's what you get. Remember the last video I showed you guys about the Mars-Pluto? Similar energy, but this is even more intense, because it feels like it's kind of Mars kind of cutting something open, going, we have to break free. We have to escape in some way. There's too much pressure. The pressure is building. And Mars can be heat. Uranus can be electricity. Taurus is about food, money, banking institutions. This is going to be about physical possessions, potentially even about materials. It could even be about price surges. It could be about energy or grid, situations kind of going out. This could be price gouging, all kinds of stuff. And this would probably be one of the transits where I would be like, yeah, we're going to probably see some like weird internet issues, right? Aquarius is associated with Uranus. We may see that there's some real turbulence in the banking sector. Another bank might collapse. We might also see where parts of the world are like, oh my God, I can't have access to my ATM. I can't take money out, or We see people panic buying situations, going into situations where they're panic buying, and then, you know, there's price gouges where people can't get what they need. So we had a very similar conjunction that happened in the summer of 2022. So you might want to think back to what happened at the end of July, the beginning of August. I remember what happened. That was right in opposition to my sun and my natal Mars. And I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and it was like 100 and, you know, something degrees even at night. And our power went out. And it was so hot that we all had to sleep, including the dogs, outside by the pool. It was like horrible, you know, until the power came back on. And it was like only our block, which was really bizarre. But it was like a miserable, probably 6, 7, 8 hours there where we didn't have any power. We couldn't stay in the house because the house was too hot. And so for me, I've always kind of looked at these transits and been like, okay, when they happen, especially when there is a connection or an association with the North Node, trust me, something will happen. Now, there's going to be a sextile to the sun. Does that soften it a little bit? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, Venus is the dispositor of these two placements, and Venus is going to be in Leo, a sign associated with leadership, children, creativity, celebrities, performers, the stock market. And Venus will have just recently came out of an opposition with Pluto, where there was some threatening, kind of combative, challenging situations revolving around other people, group situations versus individuals, and our personal pleasure in the things that we love, the people we date, our hobbies that we participate in, our children. So if you're asking me what's going to happen, the truth is you can't really make predictions with Uranus. We really don't know. But I know that I said in a previous video that your sign is probably going to come on the 12th or the 13th when you see Venus come into an opposition with Pluto. Now remember, Venus rules the South Node. So the South Node in Libra is we're undoing and kind of breaking down all these past, you know, relationship, karmic patterns and habits. I will tell you that any opposition to Pluto is dangerous, okay? It doesn't matter what planet it is. The first opposition we're going to experience with Mercury is that it's potentially toxic for us to hear or think about or talk about, or maybe it's a lot of intense, you know, psychological pressure. This is going to be more about jealousy, possessiveness, you know, people who are being conditional, people who can be cruel or mean when it comes to love or money, or feel threatened in regards to these situations. And then eventually we will also see the Sun opposition to Pluto. Remember that Leo rules leadership. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of harsh, stark differences when it comes to leadership with these oppositions. Leo is about the current leader of a country, of a club, of a business. And Aquarius is the masses. It's the people on the internet. It's also about friends and the people in the audience and the things that people have to say. And so there can be some really harsh or critical kind of statements that are being made about people on either side of these situations, which we're already kind of seeing that in the kind of climate right now. I do feel like, and I believe I did say, that likely some of the oppositions involving Pluto and the Sun may be about a leader that will be stepping down, possibly. We don't know. It could also be about a celebrity dying, or a famous artist, or a child, you know, star or performer. So we don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but this may be part of the story of, you know, Mercury first opposing, and then we start to kind of see the relationship change and fallout from that. I work with 2 degrees of orbs, so I really feel like, you know, this is why around July 12th, you guys are going to start kind of feeling this energy as we see the opposition and we see Mars coming into range of a sextile with Uranus. Keep in mind that these 2 planets are also still taking orders from Saturn and Neptune, which are retrograde in Pisces, which means some of the breakdown that we will see can actually come from, you know, like what's going on in the Pisces area of our chart. Fun fact. Last time we saw Saturn retrograde in Pisces was when we saw that submarine with all of the millionaires or whatever go under and then implode, right? Terrible story, super sad. Obviously the Titanic claims some more people, whatever, there's some kind of karma there. But that's an indication, because Saturn is about karma, it's also about structure. Pisces is the sea, right? So the sea claims somebody in that Pisces retrograde. There was like some Mars opposition stuff going on too, I think, or a Mars conjunction. I don't remember. But we're going to see something similar. So now Mars is going to be retrograde, excuse me, Saturn is going to be retrograde in Pisces, so we're reevaluating our karma. Neptune is going to be retrograde in Pisces, so there is some sense of trying to gain clarity about something that's been kind of foggy. So it's almost like things can happen suddenly out of the blue we don't see coming, and it's because of Saturn retrograde in Pisces, karma, lack of leadership, lack of support, lack of clarity, you know, and Neptune going retrograde is like, oh my God, now I'm becoming aware of a situation. Guys, I don't know about you, but this last week, I'm like, we live in a simulation. Like there are some things that I have been speculating that have been going on in the world for some time that I'm like, this thing is happening or that thing is happening. And I feel it, right? But I don't have proof. And like, I'm just waiting for that aha moment where like some of the normies start to wake up and they're like, oh my God, and I don't think anybody's like steering the ship, you know? And so now Saturn is retrograde right about the time you guys are watching this, and Neptune's getting ready to go retrograde. And hi, welcome to the party. If you're just now kind of waking up, that video they did recently about Saturn and Neptune retrograde is kind of, you know, it's so appropriate because I was like, how much of your life do you want to spend sleeping? So it's really getting our attention in a very big way. I think that I would just be mindful that sometimes lack of commitment, clarity, support, maturity, planning is actually what could potentially be creating some kind of breakdown in the Taurus area of your chart. Very challenging for obviously Taurus risings or Taurus placements around that 24 to 28 degrees. Be mindful, people are going to try to get your goat. You know, Aquarius, sun, moon, and risings too, because your modern day ruler is Uranus. And Scorpio risings and Aries risings, don't poke the bear. That's my advice. I talk about this more when we get into the 12 rising sign horoscopes, but just some food for thought. Also, one other thing I want to note is that this is happening at a Taurus degree. 26 degrees deals very specifically with wallets. It deals with cash, banks, food. I do think this is going to be more pressure revolving around the banking system. We may see another bank collapse, but also it's going to be conjunct Algol. And this is the star that deals with demonic possession, if you believe in that. It is about the connection to alcohol, right? Algol, spirits and entity attachments and possession and losing one's head and beheadings. It's the Medusa star. It can be literally about people freaking out and like losing their heads over a situation. It can be about beheadings. It can be about assassinations. And I only say that because as that conjunction is happening, we're also going to see another trigger with the moon, where the moon's going to cross the south node and it's going to trigger that 14, 15 degree point of Libra, where I think 2 months ago, I was like, when this happens with the nodes, we would see some assassinations. And I think we saw like 2 or 3 in 1 month. Okay, like lights or sirens are kind of going off in my head again. So I'm watching this and I'm wondering, is there some connection there? We've got a Venus-Pluto opposition where there could be some real extreme kind of situation where somebody's acting out in a very passionate way. Mars conjunct Uranus, somebody kind of like flips out about something, and then the South Node moon activates that. Obviously, touch wood, we don't hope so. I had my own Mars-Uranus moment this week. I like went into one of my fitness classes, my Pilates classes, and the whole street was shut down because there was 2 people that had an altercation where honestly somebody was turning into a parking lot and cut somebody off, and the other person followed them in, got out of the car, confronted them, and they got stabbed several times in the chest. Broad daylight, like middle of the day, right? So I'm telling you guys, and I live like in a small town in Texas. So it's like, I'm seeing this energy out there. Be mindful that when it comes to sharp objects, speed, hostility, anger, heat, anything like that, be careful. I think we're going to hear about some like real kind of crimes of passion, you know, kind of reminds me of what's that movie where it's like Michael Douglas and then it's like the chick who like, she like boils the rabbit. I know, terrible, but like, you know that movie where she's like crazy and you just can't get rid of her? It kind of reminds me of that. It's kind of giving me that vibe. Please post the video down, or the name of the movie down below, because it's gonna drive me crazy. So be mindful of that. And I think the connection with Algol is like obviously a time that I would be like, I'm not on the drinking. Saturn retrograde, we shouldn't be drinking as much anyway. I know for most of you guys it's summer. Yeah, I think with that conjunction, we could really see some demons and stuff come out with our anger and our frustration and people kind of acting really in rage. Ground your energy out, stay positive, stay active. Don't be kind of getting frustrated about any of that stuff. Kind of let it go. And just know that really that like 11 through 16th, things are a little intense. Also on the 16th, we're going to come into shadow. So just a reminder that we are going to be having Mercury retrograde that's going to start in August. But this Mercury retrograde We'll start in Virgo where it's in its domicile, which is about health and wellness, organization, work, routine, and it'll retrograde back into Leo. So if you want to be prepared, because it pays to be prepared for this particular retrograde, you're probably going to want to get some of your Mercury retrograde stuff done prior to the 16th. If you happen to be a Gemini, Virgo, or Leo rising, it's going to affect you guys the most because you're either ruled by Mercury or you're going to see Mercury retrograde through your sign. So it can affect your appearance and your body more. But what you need to know is that on the 16th, Mercury is going to hit that 21 degrees, and this is where it will retrograde back to. So I advise you to take a look at where Leo is in your chart. Know that you're getting ready to come into the shadow. Do what you got to do in that area, depending on what that house means. Obviously, Mercury is computers, it's cars, it's communication. It is going to be also about traveling. It could be about our mental state. Mercury retrogrades are great. We need them. They help us clean out the fridge. They help us kind of find things or reconnect, or I think maybe like find inspiration in the sign of Leo, because it's going to retrograde back to Leo. So what's challenging about this is that when the Mercury shadow happens, you're actually going to see the moon in Scorpio, which is obviously passionate, moody, oppose Mars and Uranus. So people are going to kind of get super agitated about something outside of themselves, and likely it's going to be very financial. And then it's going to come into a square with Mercury, which is in shadow. Stock market, baby, like hardcore stock market stuff around the 16th. Because Leo deals with the markets, Mercury is going to deal with a change in direction. It's going to be also about analytics. It's going to be about jobs, job numbers. And that square to the moon makes me feel like there can be either some pretty wild fluctuations going on financially and people's reactions to that. And it can be talking about something that happens, and then it can be trying to correct itself throughout the Mercury retrograde, which will start in August. Anyway, 16th is a day. I would be taking it easy that day. I also will tell you guys that Mercury will square Uranus several times throughout the particular retrograde. So that requires us to kind of like get outside of the box, think differently. There's going to be some mental stress. There's going to be some difficulties having conversations. You are going to see the first square happen around July 21st, and then you will see it go retrograde and it will square it again. So be mindful that like that 15th through the 21st, it's like, oh, there's going to be some travel changes. There's going to be some issues and some hiccups going on with communications. And that's going to bring us to what is going to be the second lunation for the month. This will happen on July 21st. This is going to be essentially a second full moon in Capricorn, a blue moon. Did a video on this. It's 29 degrees. It's conjunct Pluto. I feel like if I give you guys the whole spiel, I'm going to be beating a dead goat. But I'll just basically leave it at this. This is the oh shit moment, okay, in the world, because Capricorn is about elite. It is about governments. It's about leadership. It's about power. It's about control. Major CEOs, major kind of oversight in some ways over things. And remember that Sabian symbol where I said you're going to see a bunch of powerful people convening in private, discussing about what alliances are going to be best to be able to maintain power? Welcome to the shit show. Literally, full moon conjunct Pluto. In your life, though, this is where you want to reflect on, well, what happened last month with the full moon in Capricorn, and what was I supposed to be getting done? Am I been on track? Am I not on track? If I'm not, what do I need to get going now? And like, where does it represent this really intense kind of breakthrough moment where you're like, oh, I thought I was done with this and I'm not done with it. And I can say that because Pluto's retrograding back, and this is also a second full moon in Capricorn. So you might want to do a refresher on the last Capricorn full moon and kind of see what came up for you. Something else that we've got kind of working in our favor also is we are going to see that Mars is going to be making some interesting aspects right around like the 20th into the 21st. We're getting ready to see right after that Mars-Uranus conjunction, which is very startling. Mars then sextiles Neptune, so we're able to intuitively say, okay, maybe it's time to let this go, or like, you know, now we're kind of settling down after the static. And then Mars is going to go into Gemini. So that's going to be happening on the 20th. Obviously important for Aries and Gemini rising, Scorpio risings, your chart ruler is on the move. And I kind of mused a little bit about how Mars going into Gemini is like very, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like a boxer. Like, you know how they kind of jump around like when they fight, and like they don't stay in one place. It's very Mars and Gemini. It's great for debates. It's great for intellectual back and forth. It's great for getting out and power walking, for committing more to bike riding, taking action when it comes to learning, especially language, or learning self-help, or anything in regards to listening to stuff that can be like more motivational. And it's going to trine Pluto. So you're going to see a sweet spot like the 20th and the 21st as the moon comes into conjunction with Pluto, and it's trining the sun. And it's this very like rock'em sock'em, like let's get going, like, you know, who's ready to rumble kind of energy. And it's all in an air sign. So we're going to see this kind of group dynamic where I think a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, like game on, like let's work together, or like let's you know, talk about it. I think a lot of it's going to be about potential future debates. Personally, I think also it's just going to make the internet on fire with whatever's going on during this time. But Mars is about direction and action and motivation, and Pluto is about power. So if you're looking for a really great time to be like, yes, I'm going to initiate this new thing. Yes, I'm going to be more focused on being active. I'm learning, I'm socializing, I'm traveling. Really, really great transits right around that time. And then finally, as we're kind of getting to the later part of the month, very busy day on the 21st. You know, not only are we kind of coming out of that full moon, okay, so that'll be at that 29 degrees, but we are also going to be seeing, this is when Venus in Leo is sextiling Jupiter. So the more that we're expanding the mind and communication, the more we're able to create, share, and also love. So that's a good aspect. We have got Mercury in Leo square Uranus. And so this is where I said, be mindful that this may show you what you're kind of working on, where there's some tension between values, resources, and also creativity, love, and expression throughout the Mercury retrograde in August. Sun in Cancer is going to hit that 29 degrees. It's going to trine Neptune, and this is where you just want to let it all go. You want to let things flow. And we're feeling empowered by that Mars trine Pluto. Wow, what a day the 21st is going to be. That's such a big full moon. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in media, because there's going to be a lot of discussion that's going to be going on that day. On the 22nd, the Sun is going to come into an opposition with Pluto. So it immediately leaves Capricorn, right? It's then going to go into Leo, and it's going to oppose Pluto. And this is going to happen later in the day. Well, Sun's at home in its home sign and its domicile with Venus and Mercury, which is I love, I create, I enjoy, I play, you know, me. And we're going to see the moon in opposition to Mercury, and the Sun in opposition to Pluto. If there's going to be a day where haters are going to hate, my God, it's going to be the 22nd of July. This is where you're going to see the most division, the most conflict. You're going to see the most people who are going to be like keyboard warriors. And it's going to be kind of messy because this moon is getting caught up in a square to Uranus. And I think that this could be one of those situations where, you know, somebody comes out and is in support of one political, you know, party or one particular politician. And then, you know, they're like posting stuff about it. And then you see a huge swing with like a group. And it could be about, you know, how the group dynamic is impacting money and finances. So we've seen this a lot over the last couple of years with some of the Saturn-Uranus squares, obviously some of the transits through the fixed sign square Uranus, where there can be movements of people who are banding together and crowdfunding and helping support people, or banding together and saying, hey, you know, morally and ethically, we can't support this company or this person. And it has really big impacts. So this is one of those moments that I'm also kind of thinking, okay, we could be seeing some of that stuff happening right around the 22nd. Be very careful with, you know, with investments or with any speculation or gambling, because this looks like it could be big risk, big reward with some of this stuff. Also, as we get to the 25th, you're going to see the Sun and Mars start kind of sextiling each other, which is also a wonderful energy. It's nice to see all of this energy in Gemini and Leo. It really, as much as I love like the Cancer Pisces stuff with a ton of Scorpio in my chart, it's very, it's slow. It's sometimes kind of sad, and it also can feel like a little bit too watery. So I'm looking forward to the second half of July, where honestly, Mars and Jupiter and Gemini is a lot of like shit talking. There's going to be a lot of really great comedy. There's going to be a lot of really great memes. You're going to see a lot of people who are going to be more inspired to write and share. It's great for kind of getting out and about and interacting with our local community. And then all that creative energy in Leo, it really just kind of lightens the mood a little bit, I think, in July. The only thing that you want to watch for at the end of the month is that Chiron will go retrograde in Aries. This will affect pretty much Aries and Aries risings the most, especially if you have anything like around 20, I would say 24, 25 to about 21 degrees. This retrograde is going to happen for several months. Basically, Chiron is going to kind of go deep, and it's going to focus on how you can turn inward and focus on healing your wounds. What's lovely about this particular retrograde is that it's kind of reverberating off of Mars and Gemini, because Aries is ruled by Mars, and it means that we can actually heal ourselves by talking about our problems, by power walking, by journaling, by, telling other people what we think, by speaking, in a way that's very confident and bold and being more assertive. And so I really like that Mars Jupiter in Gemini for like really opening up our mind and like being brave. Listen to some really great, inspirational, I think, teachers or speakers in this next month. Find a song or a podcast or something that gets you pumped up, and listen to that while you're working out, or while you're driving. Gemini teaches us to multitask, in that we can, in this case with Jupiter, become our best selves while we are kind of just going throughout our day. So if you found that you've been like making excuses for not reading a book, or not working out, or not calling people back, or like whatever, make the list of things you've been making excuses about not doing, and then find ways to do it while you're multitasking. Maybe you do call your best friend on speakerphone when you're driving home. Maybe you do decide to finish that physical book that you haven't been reading via audiobook when you're like running errands, like that kind of stuff. Because I think it's going to help us be more confident and also feel like we're being more productive. For the ingresses for the month, on the 3rd, Mercury enters Leo. On the 11th, Venus enters Leo. On the 20th, Mars enters Gemini. On the 22nd, Sun enters Leo. And on the 25th, we will see Mercury enter Virgo. We've got Neptune turning retrograde at 29 degrees July 2nd, and we will see Chiron turning retrograde on July 26th. The new moon is going to be on the 5th. The full moon is going to be on the 21st. And this is going to definitely be a month that we're going to see some fireworks. So like I said, make sure you're subscribed. You guys can stay with me throughout the month. I'm always here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunday. Today's Sunday. And yeah, I look forward to working with you guys throughout this month. And if you guys want to check out any more about me, my courses, or like I said, my 2024 presidential election astrology webinar, get it while it's on sale. Head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. Until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Enjoy your month of July. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and you guys take care. See you soon.